As January progresses, I'm finding myself in hibernation mode. I used to think this was seasonal depression, but now I'm coming to see that perhaps it's simply my body telling me that the enticing societal invitations of start the new year strong are misaligned in timing for me. That feels more like spring energy. Whereas rest, quiet reflection, and tending to home are more the energy that I'm in. Where are you at this January? What does the energy of winter feel like for you? List 3 words in your mind that describe the energy of winter. And what activities nourish your body and spirit in winter? Think of 3 things. Imagine now the spring, the birds chirping, the flowers are beginning to bloom. List 3 words to describe the energy of spring. And what about summer? How does the energy of summer feel for you? And what about fall? List 3 words to yourself that describe the energy of fall. For me, fall is tricky. It's the time where my body is just beginning to start to slow down and really savor the beauty and the energy of release. And then the holiday season kicks in and invites us to rev up and into the hustle and bustle. And I love the holiday season. I just prefer to have it a bit more quaint and cozy. I try to create my calendar to remove some of the excess stuff. And maybe it's different for you. Perhaps the intention of following what feels right for us, regardless of what the external pressures are to do it differently. Maybe that's exactly what starting the new year off strong looks like. I'm going to read from the book Wintering, The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times by Katherine May. I'll read 3 different snippets of this book. A surprising cluster of novels and fairy tales are set in the snow. Our knowledge of winter is a fragment of childhood, almost innate. All the careful preparations that animals make to endure the cold, foodless months, hibernation and migration, deciduous trees dropping leaves. This is no accident. The changes that take place in winter, are a kind of alchemy, an enchantment performed by ordinary creatures to survive. Dormice laying on fat to hibernate, swallows navigating to South Africa, trees blazing out the final weeks of autumn. It is all very well to survive the abundant months of the spring and the summer, but in winter, we witness the full glory of nature's flourishing in lean times. Plants and animals don't fight the winter. They don't pretend it's not happening and attempt to carry on living the same lives that they lived in summer. They prepare. They adapt. They sleep. My cat. They perform extraordinary acts of metamorphosis to get them through. Winter is a time of withdrawing from the world, maximizing scant resources, carrying out acts of brutal efficiency, and vanishing from sight. But that's where the transformation occurs. Winter is not the death of the life cycle, but its crucible. Once we stop wishing it were summer, winter can be a glorious season in which the world takes on a sparse beauty and even the pavements sparkle. It's a time for reflection. Oh, and recuperation, for slow replenishment, for putting your house in order. In the book Wintering by Katherine May, she goes on to create another interpretation of winter being a season in the cold. It is a fallow period in life when you're cut off from the world, feeling rejected, sidelined, blocked from progress, or cast into the role of an outsider. Perhaps it results from an illness or a life event such as a bereavement or the birth of a child. Perhaps it comes from a humiliation or failure. Perhaps you're in a period of transition and have temporarily fallen between two worlds. Some winterings creep upon us more slowly, accompanying the protracted death of a relationship, the gradual ratcheting up of caring responsibilities as our parents age, the drip, drip, drip of lost confidence. Some are appallingly sudden, like discovering one day that your skills are considered obsolete. The company you worked for has gone bankrupt, or your partner is in love with someone new. However it arrives, wintering is usually involuntary, lonely, and deeply painful. Yet it's also inevitable. We'd like to imagine that it's possible for life to be one eternal summer, and that we have uniquely failed to achieve that for ourselves. We dream of an equatorial habitat, forever close to the sun, an endless, unvarying high season, but life's not like that. Emotionally, we're prone to stifling summers and low, dark winters, to sudden drops in temperature, to light and shade. Even if by some extraordinary stroke of self-control and good luck, we were able to keep control of our own health and happiness for an entire lifetime, we still couldn't avoid the winter. Our parents would age and die. Our friends would undertake minor acts of betrayal. The machinations of the world would eventually weigh against us. Somewhere along the line, we would screw up, and winter would quietly roll in. She goes on to say, I knew that they didn't last forever. I knew that I had to find the most comfortable way to live through them until spring. The times when we fall out of sync with everyday life remain taboo. We're not raised to recognize wintering or to acknowledge its inevitability. Instead, we tend to see it as a humiliation, something that should be hidden from view, lest we shock the world too greatly. We put on a brave public face and grieve privately. We pretend not to see other people's pain. We treat each wintering as an embarrassing anomaly that should be hidden or ignored. This means we've made a secret of an entirely ordinary process and have thereby given those who endure it a pariah status, forcing them to drop out of everyday life in order to conceal their failure. Yet we do this at a great cost. Wintering brings about some of the most profound and insightful moments of our human experience, and wisdom resides in those who have wintered. In our relentlessly busy contemporary world, we are forever trying to defer the onset of winter. We don't ever dare to feel its full bite, and we don't dare to show the way that it ravages us. An occasional sharp wintering would do us good, she says. We must stop believing that these times in our lives are somehow silly, a failure of nerve, a lack of willpower. We must stop trying to ignore them or dispose of them. They are real, and they are asking something of us. We must learn to invite the winter in. We may never choose to winter, but we can choose how. Winter, whether the cold and uninviting weather or the cold and uncomfortable emotional landscape we find ourselves in, serves a purpose. Glennon Doyle says, feelings aren't here to be fixed. They're here to be felt. Life reminds me of a heartbeat monitor. It goes all the way up, all the way down, and a squiggle in the middle. All the way up, the high, amazing parts of life, all the way down, the grief, the agony, the pain, squiggle in the middle, maybe those mundane moments. But that's what it means to be alive. To flatline is not living. Rather than trying to minimize the lows and shaming ourselves when we are in them, maybe it's just about strengthening our ability to be with and breathe through those dark winters. Perhaps there is something really beautiful to experience in the depths of our winters, if only we are willing to slow down and not rush quite so quickly through them. What is one thing you can do to allow the healthy flow of life in yourself and others, no matter what season of life you're in? I'll ask that question one more time. What is one thing you can do to allow the healthy flow of life in yourself and others, no matter what season of life you're in? Thank you so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day.